Chapter 29. The Intervention. Day 68. Reboot in safe mode. The psychiatric unit of Mount Sinai was a clean room, but not the kind Arthur liked. It wasn't the dust-free, static-controlled environment of a server farm. It was the antiseptic, suffocating cleanliness of a cage designed to keep the animals from hurting themselves. Arthur sat in a plastic chair bolted to the floor in the common room. He was wearing gray scrubs that smelled of industrial detergent. His feet were encased in non-slip socks, the kind with rubber treads on the bottom that stuck to the linoleum with a wet shhhhk sound every time he moved. Shhhhk. Shhhhk. The sound was maddening. It was a loop of inefficient friction. He had been here for 48 hours. The withdrawal was peaking. The ants under his skin had evolved into wasps. His bones felt like they were dissolving into chalk. The lights in the room, fluorescent tubes behind impact-resistant plastic, hummed at a frequency that felt like a drill bit in his molar. Focus, Arthur told himself. Denoise. He looked at the other patients. A woman pacing in circles, talking to a person who wasn't there. A man staring at the TV, which was encased in a plexiglass box, playing a cooking show on mute. They were broken hardware. Arthur was just misconfigured. Mr. Vane. Arthur turned. It was Dr. Eris. He was standing by the nurse's station, accompanied by a woman in a business suit. Not a doctor, not a nurse. Input analysis. Expensive blazer. Leather briefcase. Shark eyes. Lawyer. Come with us, please, Eris said. Arthur stood up. The socks stuck. Shhhhk. He walked to the conference room. He sat down at the round table. Eris sat across from him. The woman sat next to Eris. Arthur, Eris said. This is Ms. Sterling. She represents Client X. Arthur didn't blink. The mention of the company sent a jolt of adrenaline through his system, temporarily overriding the withdrawal tremors. Legal counsel, Arthur said. His voice was raspy, but he forced it to be steady. Am I being sued? We are here to discuss the terms of your situation, Miss Sterling said. She opened her briefcase. She didn't look at Arthur with pity. She looked at him like he was a liability on a balance sheet. The company is willing to forego pressing federal charges regarding the unauthorized server access and data breach. Arthur paused. Why? Because a public trial would require disclosing the nature of the data you exposed, Sterling said coldly. The proprietary algorithms, the encryption keys. We prefer to handle this quietly. Damage control, Arthur thought. They want to patch the leak, not audit the code. The condition, Sterling continued, sliding a document across the table, is that you sign this non-disclosure agreement. You agree that the breach was an accidental result of a medical episode. You agree to never contact any employee of Client X again. And you agree to immediate court-mandated rehabilitation. Arthur looked at the paper. It was a script, a new line of code to define his reality. I am not a hacker. I am a sick man. And if I refuse? Arthur asked. Then the NYPD executes the warrant waiting at the front desk, Sterling said. Grand larceny. Computer fraud. You'll go to Rikers Island, Mr. Vane. In your current condition, I doubt you'd survive intake. Arthur looked at Dr. Eris. The doctor was watching him closely. It's a lifeline, Arthur, Eris said softly. Take it. Sign the paper. We transfer you to a rehab facility in upstate New York. 30 days. You get clean. You get your life back. Arthur looked at the pen. Logic gate. Option A, prison. Death by withdrawal or violence. Option B, rehab. Survival. But rehab meant stopping. Rehab meant admitting the system was broken. Rehab meant 30 days of group therapy and feelings. Arthur Vane didn't do feelings. He did metrics. He picked up the pen. His hand shook, a violent tremor that rattled the pen against the paper. Click, clack, click. I can't go upstate, Arthur said. Excuse me? Sterling asked. I have assets, Arthur lied. I have a storage unit. Servers. If I don't pay the bill, they get auctioned. The data on them is worth more than your settlement. Arthur, Eris warned, you are focused on the wrong variables. I will sign, Arthur said, looking at Sterling. I will sign the NDA. I will admit to the medical episode. But I choose my own treatment vector. You're on an involuntary hold, Eris reminded him. You don't get to choose. The hold expires in 24 hours, Arthur said. He leaned forward. The sweat on his forehead was cold. You said I was a danger to myself because of the suicide attempt. But if I sign this, he tapped the NDA. Then the suicide attempt becomes a medical error, an accidental overdose, a miscalculation of dosage. He looked Eris in the eye. He summoned the last reserves of the director persona, the arrogance, the certainty, the sheer force of will. I am not suicidal, doctor. I am an engineer who made a math error. That is not grounds for involuntary commitment. If you keep me here past 72 hours, I will sue this hospital for unlawful imprisonment. And I will use the settlement money to buy a very loud megaphone. It was a bluff, a desperate, trembling bluff. But Eris hesitated. He looked at Sterling. Sterling didn't care about Arthur's mental health. She just wanted the signature. If he signs, Sterling said to the doctor, Client X considers the matter closed. We withdraw the complaint to the NYPD. Eris looked back at Arthur. He saw the shaking hands. He saw the dilated pupils. But he also saw the intelligence. The trapped animal gnawing at the trap. If I release you, Eris said slowly, you will go back to the drugs. You know that. The statistics are absolute. I am an outlier, Arthur said. He signed the document. The signature was a jagged scrawl, barely legible. He pushed the paper toward Sterling. There, Arthur said. The bug is patched. Now let me run the program. Day 69. Discharge. The 72-hour clock ran out at 10 a.m. Arthur stood at the nurse's station. He was wearing his ruined clothes, the filthy dress shirt, the suit pants stiff with dried mud. They hadn't washed them. He signed the discharge papers. Against medical advice. Dr. Eris stood by the elevator. He handed Arthur a plastic bag containing his wallet, empty, and his phone, shattered screen. You're making a mistake, Arthur, Eris said. The withdrawal isn't over. You're in the acute phase. The seizure threshold is lowered. You could die on the street. I appreciate the data, Arthur said. He put the phone in his pocket. Here, Eris said. He held out a piece of paper. A prescription. Arthur's heart leaped. Gabapentin? Benzodiazepines? He took the paper. Clonidine 0.1 milligrams. Hydroxyzine 25 milligrams. Blood pressure medication and an antihistamine. Comfort meds. Useless garbage that wouldn't stop the noise, only dampen the physical shaking. Arthur crumpled the paper and dropped it in the trash can next to the elevator. Placebo, Arthur muttered. Good luck, Mr. Vane. Eris said. It sounded like a eulogy. The elevator doors opened. Arthur stepped in. He rode down to the lobby. He walked out into the street. The city hit him like a physical blow. The noise was deafening. A taxi honked, and Arthur flinched so hard he almost fell over. The sunlight was a laser beam burning into his retina. He was free, but he was at zero. He had no job. He had no home. He had no money. The $60 was gone. The credit cards were maxed or frozen. He had no friends, and he had no inventory. He stood on First Avenue, shivering in the warm spring air. Objective, survival. Resources, null. He needed a reset. He needed to go back to the beginning. He thought of the only place that hadn't changed. The only place that was still waiting for him. Queens. The basement. He had been evicted, yes. But he knew the landlord, Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was old. He was slow. He often forgot to change the locks on the service entrance. And Arthur knew he had left something there. Not drugs. Something more important. The backup drive. He started walking toward the 4/5/6 train. He didn't have a Metro card. He would have to jump the turnstile again. He was a criminal now. A ghost. But as he descended into the subway, Arthur Vane didn't feel fear. He felt a grim, mechanical determination. The system had crashed. The hardware was damaged. But the user was still logged in.